Our top story, and a former CIA and NSA staffer who has revealed himself as the source of the leaks on the government spying program. 29-year-old Edward Snowden says he acted in the public's interest and that the extent of the surveillance that we've now learned of goes far beyond what most people suspect.
Any analyst at any time can target anyone, any selector anywhere. Where those communications will be picked up depends on the range of the sensor networks and the authorities that that analyst is empowered with. Not all analysts have the ability to target everything, but I, sitting at my desk, certainly have the authorities to wiretap anyone, from you or your accountant to a federal judge to even the president if I had a personal email.
Wow. Joining me now, Simon Rosenberg, president and founder of think tank NDN and a former Clinton campaign advisor, and Monica Crowley, who's a Fox News contributor and author of What the Bleep Just Happened. And he went on to say, you are not even aware of what's possible. The extent of their capabilities is horrifying. We can plant bugs in machines. If I want to see your emails or your wife's phone, all I have to do is use intercepts. I can get your emails, passwords, phone records, credit cards, and so on. And yet that begs the question that you are here to discuss, which is traitor or Simon?
Traitor. The more that we learn about what's happened here, the more upset I think the American people should be. I mean, Glenn Greenwald said this morning on another television network that he's been given information like the names of agents, clandestine agents around the world, and much more information than has been released, and that he's going to decide what gets released. We have these revelations have come out at a time which seemed maximally designed to undermine the president's negotiating position in what was a really significant set of negotiations with the Chinese about their horrible behavior online and the way that they have stolen secrets from the United States. And it was seemed to be maximally timed to disrupt that. And we found out that he did it while he was in China, right? I mean, this is a bad situation. We got to come down hard on this guy. We'll see how the government responds in the coming days.
What do you think, Monica?
Well, I don't disagree with Simon to this extent, although I think that the question of is he a hero or a traitor, I think is a bit too stark. I think it's much more nuanced than that, Megan. I agree with Simon to this extent that he has probably done enormous damage to our national security in terms of giving our enemies a heads up about what we're doing here and untold cases that perhaps we're looking into in terms of terrorism, impending threats, and so on. But I also think you can be on the side of wanting our national security secrets protected, as well as being deeply concerned about potential abuses of these surveillance programs. What he said yesterday in his interview with The Guardian and Glenn Greenwald is that we now have the infrastructure of repression in this country. He called it turnkey tyranny. So I think he raises a lot of very serious concerns about the extent to which the federal government may be intruding on your privacy, done in the name of national security. And I agree with Simon, he should be prosecuted to the wall, fullest extent of the law, assuming we can extradite him back to the United States from Hong Kong. But I do think it's a little more nuanced than the conversations that we have been having.
There are some discussions online. I'm looking at one piece that was written for CNN.com by Douglas Rushkoff that is entitled "Edward Snowden is a Hero," and talks about the risks that he took, the personal risks. He had a job paying about $200,000 a year. He's living in Hawaii, 29-year-old college dropout making a lot of dough, and didn't have to do this, but felt that he didn't want to live in a country in which, quote, our very humanity was being compromised by the blind implementation of machines in the name of making us safe. That's from the author, not from the leaker. Simon, he came out, one of the things he said was, the documents I leaked revealed that the NSA routinely lies in response to congressional inquiries about the scope of surveillance in America. I mean, we just played that clapper bite. Does he have a point?
Well, I think that the point here is that governments now have unprecedented tools to spy on their own people and to spy on people who live in other countries. We've never had a situation before like this in human history. We're going to have to establish new norms, both domestically here in the U.S., to ensure that the American people have faith and confidence in the way that their government is managing this incredible new power. But we also have to do more, and this is what I'm sorry is not getting discussed today is we have to do more to ensure that countries like Russia and China, who are not exactly the most friendly operators on the global stage, are not also using their power to influence things going on here in the United States. The theft of American property, intellectual property by the Chinese over the last 5 or 6 years is the largest set of theft of goods or property probably in modern history.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. And we're not even talking about that now, Megan. We would have been talking about that. This is what I mean about the timing of the leaks last week. They seem to be maximally designed to undermine the United States at a moment of discussion with the Chinese. The first time our president was willing to sit down with the Chinese and really confront them over what they were doing inside the United States. That isn't being debated today. Instead, we're talking about Edward Snowden. I'm upset about that.
Well, and does
personally.
it in any way cede our moral authority in some ways, Monica, in said discussions? You know, I mean, are these countries going to turn around and say, why don't you worry less about us spying on you and worry more about you spying on your own people?
Right, exactly. And that's one of the big issues that Simon just pointed to, and I agree with him on this. Look, I also don't think it's a coincidence that Mr. Snowden fled to Hong Kong. And now there's some conversation that he may, in fact, defect to the Chinese. Beijing still has control over Hong Kong when it comes to defense and foreign policy. So he falls into this gray area here. Beijing could say, we're not going to allow him to be extradited to the United States for prosecution because we want to flip him and gain whatever intel we can possibly gain from him in all of these matters.
Well, we don't know how it's going to work out legally, but you know, the discussion people are having is, do we have the right to know this, Simon? You know, is it? I went on a rally on Thursday night, and he said, so what's the big headline of the day? And I said that this is happening. You know, that it came out that this is happening. There had been a report back in 2006 in USA Today that it was happening, but the administration did not confirm it the way it did this time, and it sort of died out. Now it's been confirmed, and it's happening, and it's broader than we knew. Do we have a right to know that and then to debate and discuss it?
Yes, and I think that, you know, you could argue that if there any good comes of this, and certainly looks like there's going to be much more harm than good, is that, you know, we're now going to have a debate, Megan. You're having it now, we're having it now. We're going to talk about what our capabilities are the mechanisms in place, and as John Bolton said, I don't often agree with Ambassador Bolton, you know, these days, but
I know. Hasn't this story made strange bedfellows? Yes. Like well, you two.
I know. But what's interesting is that what he said was, look how many checks and balances there actually are here. And the question is there enough checks and balances for whether it's a Democrat or Republican president, a Democrat or Republican Congress? Do the American people really feel that they can trust the system that's put into place not to intervene? And to be clear about something Snowden said in that interview, which I think was slightly misleading and has been also getting talked about in the chat rooms, is that he said he had the power and the authorities. Well, that's actually not true. He would have needed court orders and more higher level authority to actually go in and look at somebody.
Capability is one thing.
Capability. If he had done that, he would have broken the law himself.
Right. Yeah. That's right. And there's already been pushback on that from members of the intel committees in the Congress saying he is overstating what he, you know, capability to do it is one thing, but you know, actually doing it is another. And what of that, Monica? I mean, that's interesting to think of, you know, Glenn Greenwald sitting there now as a result of these leaks, holding the names of agents, you know, undercover operatives, and whose lives could be in danger if, you know, his files are compromised or he decides to publish that information. I mean, there's a reason why we make people like Mr. Snowden take an oath not to do this when they take